Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I want to welcome you to another Wednesday class here coming to you from HeartLight Spiritual Center. And for you that are joining us out of town or out of state, we want to welcome you to our class today. Our subject has been for the last several weeks on pertaining to this idea of dimensions. I believe that we have entered a point in consciousness where we have a choice of whether we want to keep following the linear road or if we want to explore the vertical. Let's start out today a little bit on exactly what is a dimension. Let's talk about that. Let's start there. First of all, dimensions are not places and they are not locations. I want you to think about that because although I acknowledge there's places on the earth where ley lines run that seem to be more sacred than other places, what comes to mind for me is Sedona and the vortexes and red rocks of Sedona. I have had some real experiences with that through the years of visiting Sedona. But those who have gone to Stonehenge and those who have gone to Bali and other places around 3D, they have found portals in which they could have greater spiritual experiences. But I'm not sure that's in the linear sense of here versus there. But when you are connected into the vertical around the linear of here and there is no here and there in the vertical. Rather, they are levels of consciousness that vibrate at a certain rate. So dimensions are not places and locations. There's a place where the teacher, Yeshua, said to the disciples, as is interpreted, he says, if they say I'm in the desert, do not go. If they say I'm on some mountain, do not go. For the kingdom of God does not come by observation in the sense of time and space. And I think that we all have to realize that the answer is not getting from here to there. I've done that most of my spiritual life. I spent a lot of years moving, changing states and cities because I kept thinking it's going to be there. I've done that several times. I've moved Tulsa to Dallas to Birmingham to Montgomery to Peoria to Decatur. I mean, I've been all over the place thinking that there was somewhere that I could find that was going to solve all my issues and bring me the spiritual enlightenment that I was seeking. But every time I got there, because I was here, there turned into a here. And here I was again. And therefore, the ego said, you need another there. So the carrot was kind of dangling out here, trying to get me to somewhere I couldn't get to. And that's why I love the wonderful scripture that says, be still and know I am God. Say it with me. Be still and know I am God. So it didn't matter wherever I went and what condition it was or what situation it was. Every time I got there, there I was. See? So that's the great thing that's happening now as the more vertical path is opening up to us, which is taking us out of the ability or disability of thinking that it's in places of time and space. Therefore, in the vertical, all dimensions are levels of consciousness. How do we get to those levels of consciousness? By tapping into the vibration or frequencies at a certain rate. There exists numerous dimensions. The fourth and fifth are simply higher than the one we've been living in. And this is the end of the illusion of 3D. The illusion was that you can find your wholeness and perfection in third dimension. And that there's a religion that can give it to you, or there's a philosophy, or there's a modality, or there's something in 3D that can get you to seeking the awakening, the enlightenment. And it just does not happen. And as long as we buy into that illusion, we will never explore the other dimensions of frequencies and vibrations that are available to us, as long as we remain in a third 3D dimension, which is and has to come to its fulfillment of doing all that it offered us in 3D. I think this is the inner restlessness of man, womankind right now. I think people are restless. I think people are not satisfied. I think people feel hopeless, whether they admit it or not. I think people are losing their hope. And you should be. You're supposed to. If you don't, you'll stay as a resident of third dimension, always seeking what you cannot attain in 3D that is waiting for you in 5D. The only way to experience what's in 5D and beyond is to find the matching level and vibration of consciousness that matches that dimension and brings it into your consciousness. And I know I wear this out by just using this example, but I try to find something that is very simple for us as third dimensional human beings to understand, and that is the fact, again, of how we manifest different stations on our TV. I just find it so good as an example and a parable to understand that all those stations that you guys have, however many, some of you have thousands, some of you maybe not so many, it doesn't matter, but all of them are existing in the same space. But what you want to manifest depends on the frequency that you put in that's a match for that particular station or show to manifest. So we have to understand that all dimensions actually are existing at the same time. And that's what we mean by vertical. In linear, you're either here or you're there. And things follow each other, but not in the vertical that we are basically talking about. Does that make sense to you? Yes. So ascension into even higher dimensions will continue even after we reach the fifth. So it doesn't mean because I'm watching a show and I don't like it, so I'm going to change it. So I go to another frequency. Doesn't mean that I've done away with that frequency I just left. That show is still there available to me. It's just in the changing of the frequency that has brought me into the focus of being conscious of it. And I think that's where I think some of the teachings have failed us. Even in metaphysical teachings, that we seem to think that we can think love in without changing the vibration, the frequency of the thought. So you see why things a few years ago really begin to show up as modalities working with frequencies and vibration and sound and all of that, because it was time for us to go to another station. You know, I watch a show sometimes that has a series. I get tired of it. That's not working for me. Or maybe I finished it. I get it. I got the story. Let's move on. Why go back and watch it all over again and just keep watching it all over again and then thinking, if I watch it again, maybe something will change. I've actually done that, and that's silly. That I think somehow, at some level, I think maybe it'll be different story. Maybe the outcome will be totally different. It won't be as sad as it was the first time I watched it. I mean, that's ridiculous, but sometimes that's in the back of our mind. So I have the ability to change the frequency and the vibration through a remote control. And the remote control is the point of contact between the dimensions, or frequencies, such as tuning forks. To me, is a great tool. It is the remote for being able to change the vibration to a different station, or in this case, dimension. I think we've used our prayers a little wrongly because we keep thinking we can pray it down. I used to hear that in the church I was raised in. Let's pray it down. You know, we'd have fervent prayer meetings of trying to pray God down, to pray the healing down. When the teacher's very clear to say, where I go and prepare a place, you too can be. So it's not about bringing all this down, because if I decide I want to bring another show down into the one I'm watching, what chaos that is if I've got two going on at the same time. So let's say on this TV, I'm watching Friends, and on this TV, I'm watching Seinfeld, and I put them both on at the same time. I got static and chaos, and I don't know which one to listen to. And I'm not sure who's saying what. I've lost the storyline of both. All right? So the power and the use of frequency of consciousness is going to be very important of how we tune in clearly to higher states or higher dimensions. Each dimension vibrates at a higher rate than the one below. In higher dimensions, there exists a clearer, wider perspective of reality, a greater level of knowing. We experience from freedom, greater power, and more opportunity to create reality. I want to go back to this where it says that the dimensions vibrate at higher rates than the one below. In the Soul Energetics tuning forks, and I just have to use what I know, that it's interesting that the frequencies, the first fork starts in the 300s, 396. The next one, Ray, starts with a 4, 417. The next fork, me, Myra Gestorum, is 528, 3, 4, 5. The next one is Fa, and it is a 4. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 39. And then you have the next one is 741 hertz, which is a 7. And finally Soul, which is 852. So every one of those is a step higher. If you heard the fork, you'd hear it go one step higher, one step higher, one step higher. And I can maybe go through it another time, but there is a place in the Bible, in Psalms, that talks about the degrees. The degrees of Solomon, the degrees of David, the degrees. And if you take the chapter of those degrees and bring them down to a Pythagorean root number, they all go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Psalms 122 is what? 1 plus 2 is 3, and a 1 is 4. So they all tell us that we can have access to the different degrees or frequencies of our journey to reality and enlightenment. Does that make sense to you? Okay? And that's why just listening to those forks is very important. Just putting it into your auditory system and giving that to the vagus nerve that runs through the nervous system of your body can actually begin to tune you to have access to other and different dimensions. And that's when you start meditating and all the things that you are doing spiritually for yourself, more clarity starts coming in. And you get clearer and clearer. So, in order for higher dimensions to be available to us, we need to vibrate in resonance with it. Shifting from one level of consciousness to the next higher one means becoming established in it. We don't get pulled back. So, we're starting to talk about 3D. We're going to talk about 3, 4, and 5 is going to be our focus in the class for a while. 3D, I don't have to tell you about because you live it every day. You live 3D every day. And the minute you wake up in the morning and brush your teeth and take a shower and all the things that you do to survive every day is 3D living. So you're living 3D. But even though we're living 3D on a pretty much daily basis, there are times in which we tap into such things as, let's say all of a sudden you experience a real compassion and love for something in which no judgment is attached to it. It's not conditional. You know, in 3D, you love things because you really have a condition to it. I don't care what people say. When you fall in love, which is a 3D ego technique that you want to stay away from. This is why a lot of your marriages and relationships have not worked, because you did fall in love. The worst thing can happen to a person is to fall in love. You don't want to fall anywhere. When people say to me, oh, I met somebody, when I first saw him, I just fell in love. I go, I'll be praying for you. If you fall in love, you fall into the trap of the ego. Now, it's fine to be in love with somebody in which there is a match, which takes you out of the level of third dimensional of being a soulmate. You don't want to be a soulmate. People think that's their ultimate goal, is to find a soulmate. Wrong. Soulmate is a lot of third dimensional work of mirroring in each other what we've not healed. And that's why people don't last or continue to have the vibration of why they've come together and have to settle for less, is because of the fact that they have no real match. If your love comes from the fact of, I don't want to be alone, or every woman needs a man, and a man cannot survive without the woman, who's really, whether he admits it or not, sees it as the archetype of his mother. Because every man loves a mother, wife. Oops, I'm meddling now. Men love a wife that will mother them. I know when I got married, I married kind of my mother in that way. When I settled on a woman to marry, the closest model that I had was my mother. I wanted her to be as close as what my mother was to me as a woman. You have to think about these little things that's going on with you. You women here, I mean, the father in most cases are very weak. Not all of you. Maybe you had a good, strong, loving dad, then you're blessed. But I've been in this long enough, counseling with people and stuff like that, where either the father left or the father was not there half the time and was not a strong figure. And therefore, in the lack of that, women subconsciously go out and look for a man that is fulfilling of what the father did not give them. You know, I believe the games that are played and how the ego puts us together into relationships that keeps us from really growing. So fifth dimension is not soulmates, but twin flames. Two different things. That means two people who have pretty much done the same work and have entered the same frequency to come together to not work on each other, but to work as co-creators to the planet. Y'all for quiet. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you what your challenges are and have been in the marriages you had, the divorces and all this, that, and another. You can't make things work that's not a frequency match. You can't any longer be attracted to somebody, and I'm speaking of heterosexual, male, female, by the evolutionary driver of procreation. That's why all that was developed in evolution, for the purpose of passing down your DNA and continuing yourself and your offspring through the ancestral story. The vibration has moved out of here to here. And the frequency of procreation now becomes the vibration of co-creation. People are not attracted because I need to go to bed with you and have physical sex. I'm attracted to you because we have ideas, because we have vision, because we can come together and come up with things that can allow humanity to evolve itself to the higher level. We don't need more bodies. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry, but I'm telling you, we just don't need more bodies all the time. And that's why you got a generation that's not having the kids. You know, you've got girls and women that are saying no. My granddaughter, who's 20-some years old, has no desire to have a child. And I said, don't you feel bad about it. Don't you let somebody tell you the only reason you're here as a woman is so you can produce another human. I'm not saying you won't, but I'm saying that's not your purpose here. I know I'm tearing up 3D as much as I can because it just ain't working.
Tear it up. Yeah.
There's got to be a better and higher way for why we are attracted to each other than 3D. 3D has failed us in the fact of what 42 people who will marry this year will end up in a divorce. But we keep doing it because of the old model. I'm supposed to find somebody, I'm supposed to have babies, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. And I think that you're seeing that change because the frequencies are basically changing. Wow, I didn't really mean to get into that, I never do. Let me do that. So let's talk about 3D a little bit. Human beings are the keepers of 3D under the direction of the Palladian constellation. The information that is coming in to people of 3D and those who are channeling this information, such as books like this is extremely channeled Palladian work. And we'll get into it, but every dimension has its keepers. But 3D, we as human beings have been put here as keepers for this planet, under the directions of the Palladians. Now, Palladians is just some foreign idea to you. It's not my fault. You need to, I don't know, I keep encouraging you to do something in between here. Get on your computer and look at some stuff. There's no reason, I would suggest, not to get everything out of this class from me, but you have to take the responsibility of your own research. Their description of 3D from Palladian is same as Native American and Celtic perspective. The description of 3D from Palladian agrees more with Native American and I don't know if you say Celtic or Celtic, whatever you want to say, perspective. Many worlds, ages, dimensions, planes, zones, whatever you want to call it, are somewhat physical as well as non-physical dimensions. But it is in 3D that the visible and non-visible dimensions and planes all intersect. So it's in this third dimension experience that all of the seen and not seen, so 1D, 2D, 3D are the physical. Somebody tell me about what's 1D as we've taught it.
Iron core of the earth.
Hmm?
Iron core of the earth.
Iron core of the earth, right? The crystal. What about it?
Break that.
40 hertz.
Yeah,
Yes, it spins.
it spins, yeah, giving off what we call gravity. Because nothing else could be formed in the next level, which is crystals and rocks and things on the crust of the earth, without gravity to pull the molecules together to form these things. So things start forming themselves in 2D. And again, this is where the Native American culture, for instance, and others are very in touch with that part of the earth story. The crystals, the stones, the things of the earth. So you have 1D, 2D, 3D. 1D is the gravity from the core, which starts putting together form on 2D, and finally humans show up at 3D. So 3D is our dimension that we've been signed. When it says, and God gave us dominion over the earth, he's talking about 3D. 3D. But unfortunately, most of the 3D humans of so-called civilization have lost their connection to 1 and 2D. And took those who were connected to it and could have continued to contribute that, we interpreted them as ignorant, stupid, and heathen. It's horrible what we did to the Native American people. It is terrible. I mean, I don't know how much you've seen, but it is almost hard to watch what white Europeans did when they came over into this country, let alone the story of other cultures. But they understood 2D and made their ceremonies around the 2D, whether it was dancing in the kivas. You know, the kivas were down in the earth where they danced and danced and danced and danced until they had danced themselves into other dimensions.
Like the whirling dervishes.
Hmm?
Like the whirling dervishes.
Like the surfy, yeah, absolutely. There's another 2D. In fact, most all religions, whether it is Jewish, Christian, Muslim, all had a period of what we call mysticism that was more 2D. But time the disconnection happened between 1D and 2D, and 3D became all power, then we lost the connection, which started coming back some decades ago with such things as sweat lodges, drumming. People got interested in crystals. I mean, I didn't grow up. Well, I did kind of grow up with that because I was in Oklahoma. So I grew up with the Cherokee and, all that kind of thing. But most people did not, who was raised in New York or Los Angeles or somewhere like that. Maybe they didn't have any connection to that type of thing. And therefore we became so disconnected that we believed that all the power was 3D. And didn't realize that in 3D is 2D, and in 2D is 1D. You can't have 3D without 1 and 2D. Correct? So 1D, 2D, and 3D are the physical things we can see. The non-physical is the 4D through 9D. But the fact that 3D has access to all of these dimensions on a very subtle frequency, and that's why we call our energy bodies subtle energy. Etheric, mental, emotional, astral, causal, etheric, we call subtle bodies, because they are the way in which we can access these frequencies in the third dimension. But the thing about accessing them is they cannot stabilize themselves in 3D because they don't have enough of a frequency to stabilize in 3D. So they can come for a while. So back to the example of all of a sudden you experience such a pure love and compassion through you, in which there is no judgment attached in any way, and you know that this love is not that human love, that falling in love, that body-to-body love, but it almost feels what? Divine love, moving through me and as me. Every one of you should know the difference and have had that. I know you have. Like an overwhelming love moving over you and through you and as you. It's not the same love that you even have for your companion or for food that you love or a color that you love. And I'm sorry, but not even your pet, as much as I know you love your pets. That's still a third dimension human love. I'm talking about that agape love. How many of you ever had that happen to you? And right now you probably, it's a great time to have it if you're watching what's going on over there and feel love for those people, what they're going through right now. That is 5D. 5D is an unconditional, pure love that is beyond third dimensional human love. I've had people all my life tell me they love me, in the ministry. And they love me because of what I preached, what I gave them, whatever. And turn on a dime like that, and I became the worst and most horrible false prophet that was on the planet. I can't tell you the times in 60 years that I've experienced that, until it's made me a little wary of people. Until recently, I don't know if it's age or what, but I don't know that I care that much. I think it's their loss. So, another one, peace that passes understanding. Peace in which there's no understanding. Where did this peace come from? It's flowing through me. It is ascended peace. Fifth dimension. But we don't live there, is the thing. This love comes in, touches, and returns back to its root frequency. So in other words, fifth dimension visits third dimension. It checks into the hotel of 3D for maybe a moment, a night, a day. Then it checks out. But the Bible says God is looking for a habitation. God is looking for a dwelling place. And we're making God love, peace, all of those divine attributes. It's looking for a place. But it only comes here to say to us that I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. You are the one that has to change your vibration to match the love that is unconditional and not judgmental, the peace that surpasses understanding, the joy that is a state of consciousness and not an emotion and just a feeling of 3D. So, what is time? Oh, no. And that's my fault. I've got to start announcing. Get your phones off.
Seriously, I have my sound. No, it's not.
So the third dimension is a dimension of linear space-time that we humans live in, with other biological creatures and plants. Okay? We humans are the keepers of 3D. That's important. We've been given the dominion of 3D. But, let me say again, as keepers, we have to connect to the ascended guides of 3D, which are the Palladian consciousness. And the Palladians say there is much more going on in this world than most people realize. From this perspective, many worlds operate in 3D in the dimensional of scheme. 3D is the zone where the physical and non-physical dimensions intersect. Now, these points of where things intersect are openings to portals called point zero points. They're 0.0 points. Okay, let me see what else I want to give you here that's important. To be grounded, we must open ourselves to the full range of feelings. I really want to talk on this because I'm going to bring it down to HeartLight. So get ready. To be grounded. I want you to think about that. In this time of so much going on the planet, you must be grounded. If you're not, the storm that is here and brewing is going to blow you away from your center. What is your center? Divine purpose. The purpose for this incarnation, the purpose to fulfill all contracts and agreements are found to those that are finding the center. Not the center of the earth, but the center of their being. Remember, I live, I move, I have my being. To be grounded, we must open ourselves to full range of feelings. If not feeling, listen to this, we get lost in the vision of ourself, such as the 4-year-old child that was abandoned by a parent, the 15-year-old that was molested, and on, the story of our past begins to take over. If we do not work to balance these past events that is forming our life, I want you to get that. In other words, somebody, if you're a woman, some man did me dirty, so I'll never trust another man. All of that kind of stuff from the past that's based upon experiences of the past in our story. If we do not learn how to clear all that out, if we do not work with it and allow present energy to come in, it will block our true feeling, our feelings. And then I said go to page 35 bottom, so I'm going to do that. To be in the new, it helps to think of yourself as a point in 3D, a perceptual locator, and become conscious of the 7 directions moving out of your body, even through your emotional connections, are the essence of your life, and weave you into a fabric of life to handle, for instance, 4D when we get to it, our orientation in 3D becomes tremendously important. So you have to poise yourself in 3D to be able to move into the 4D and 5D experience. I tried to encourage this group, which I feel there's a lack of, is showing your feelings. Sometimes I would like to take a picture of all of you as I stand up there, in which in most cases I see a totally blank and no sense of feeling, getting it to the feeling. I want you to feel. I just think it's so important because feeling is what breaks down the old energy blockages that holds us back into 3D and not allows us to move into the other dimensions that are basically waiting for us. It's important. If you feel something in the service that makes you want to cry, why would you not cry? What are you really concerned about? Or feeling joy. You say, well, I'm feeling that. Really? But you're not getting it to the cellular level. If you don't get to the cellular level and let it rate out, then it builds up because it's not allowed to be a feeling. Then it builds up, and the very fact of holding back a feeling becomes the energy block at some point. Sometimes I need to know what you're feeling. And I can't read it. I can't read it. So please think about when you're in the, like right now, what are you feeling?
Wonderful. Seriously.
Good. Wonderful, she said. That's great. She did it. She brought it right into the very physical outer life. What are you feeling, Barbara?
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Say it like you mean it.
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Yeah. See, this is what I want you to do, is to let it express. Let the feeling, that spirit as a feeling, express itself.
That you can do it.
Huh?
And that you can do it.
You can do it. And I don't know why we don't. So there's a lot of good things to why that happens. One, it releases it so it doesn't get blocked up in you. And secondly, it radiates out into the collective. So this is one of the great things of 3D people, is the ability to feel. To have that feeling of enlightenment in some way. Oh my goodness, my time's going. The indigenous people, as well as the Pleiades, say that we are asleep. Which is why we mostly avoid our feelings. Meanwhile, feelings are our access to enlightenment. That's what this says. Feelings is access to our enlightenment. When you incarnate, you are in direct line with the center of the earth, as well as our own multidimensional vertical axis. 3D. If we can understand our 3D experience, we become more easy to move into the next one we'll talk about at some point, and that is our 4th dimension. And of course, I'm really wanting to get to the 5th dimension. That's where I got the most information, basically, about all of that. So 3D is the one we're living every day. Again, I don't feel I have to say a lot about it because you live it. You live it. You live 3D. Let's take a deep breath. I'm going to do a meditation. See if you can get in touch with your feelings, not your intellect, not the words, but the feeling behind the words. Breathe in and exhale and let go. Remove any fear of feeling your feelings. You are free and floating on your back in a warm body of water. The water is the same temperature as your body. You don't know where one ends and one begins. There is water under you, air above you, and you are relaxed, safe, and content. As you float perfectly on this body of water, your head is relaxed and supported. Your thoughts are slow, and all you have to do is to notice things, observe things that are going on inside of your head. It's fine if thoughts are coming and going. That's what the brain does. Just know you are the silent observer, observing it. You don't have to control it. Your goal is not complete stillness, for the stillness is always there in the background. You need to know that you have 4 brains inside of the head. First, find your reptilian brain. It is down low at the base of your cranium, deep inside, protected and ancient. Your reptilian brain knows it is instinctual. It listens to your body, perched right there close to the spine and the neck and to the rest of your body. Breathe. Your blood supply goes right through it. This brain is wise. This is why the teacher Yeshua said, be as wise as the serpent, but as harmless as the dove. It gives you insight as long as you listen to it. It knows touch, hot and cold, wet and dry. Next, find your mammalian brain. It says above, wraps around the edges of your reptilian brain. It knows when you need to fear and when not to, when to run and not to. It uses the power of sight and scent to find food and safety. It uses the power of discernment to decide what action is next to take. It warms when it has companionship with others. And now let's find the human brain. It's right there through the middle of your head, front to back, wrapped over your mammalian brain like a sheathing, like an installation. The second growth, a second thought, opening to new possibility. It has come about through thousands of years of discernment and wanting to remember those discernments. It wants to store bits of information as food for thought. Like a squirrel having acorns in the ground, notice thoughts. This brain has many of those. Brilliant bits of energy bursts shooting through these circuits at close and to the speed of light thoughts. And finally, we find the neocortex of the brain. It is that extra stuff in front behind your forehead. You feel it like an energy burst there. It pulses when you have an especially brilliant insight or vision. It loves ideas and ideals. The thing you want to create, to see happen in your life or in the lives of those you know, is here. Sometimes those ideals become real and our neocortex warms our forehead, causing our whole face to relax and a smile to form on our lips. And now come back to the floating on the surface of the water. Feel the sun rising in the sky and warming your face. Feel the four brains inside your head and enjoying the feeling of new understanding. Feel the dimension in which you are living, but at the same time feel the hope of the access of higher dimensions. Opening up through this information you're being given, through the tool of meditation, sound, and frequency, until you become a more whole integrated being. You are not just the self of 3D that appears to lack health or riches or love. That is only one dimension that you have focused on. The self that you truly are cannot be held in one dimension any more than your Creator, who needed infinite universes. If you're looking for healing, look for the you that is whole. If you're looking for that peace, look for the you in the fifth dimension that's waiting to come together and be one with you. And take just a few seconds to see what you feel. Slowly return back to the consciousness of the physical space in which you occupy. You're ready, you can open your eyes. So the bottom line is 3D is what we live every day. But other dimensions are opening up more and more and more to us and calling us into a higher state. There's a place in the Bible that says, "Come up hither in the sun realm. No dragons here abide." It's really a song, actually. We made out of that. Come up hither into the sun realm, where no dragons here abide. All right. Anybody have anything? We want to welcome those who were with us today. If they're leaving us, thank you for your continuous support for the class. We'd love to hear from you. It's on the website where you can get in touch with us and how that you can support if you would choose to do that. So thank you, and we will hope you'll be with us on Sunday at 11:15 in our service. Barbara.
I just wanted to thank you because yes, we're all living in 3D, but it's like the fish looking for water that's in the water. Mm-hmm. And your teachings, David, have helped at least me look at it from a different perspective as opposed to being inundated by it. I get to look at it from a different point of view and an understanding.
Okay, thank you. Good. Glad to hear it.
There's a basket in there? Hi. I'll go get a bowl or a plate or something.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? An opportunity to. Hmm?